awesome cards, and you have a couple discard spells, which are helpful too. But the creature removal is not very efficient against Burn in general, and particularly against Vidi's list that has very little in the way of creatures. I would expect Vidi to take this match down.
Well, we get to watch it in action, my friends. You got Wijaya on your right, you got Ko on your left. We are underway here, of course. When we do have results in other matchups, we will let you know. In addition to that, we have a premium giveaway here that will take place. The question will be asked at the conclusion of our first game here. So, Patrick, will you be ready to ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, sounds good to me. Wijaya going to play a mountain and pass the turn back, it looks like. In just a moment, as Ko is going to play a Temple of Silence. Now, for Ko, it's probably pretty helpful that he knows what he's up against, at least.
Yeah, he knows that he doesn't have to leave up removal spell to play around something like Storm Breath Dragon, for example. That's a lot of valuable information.
Ashlock going to come across here for 2 for Wijaya. Going to deal first blood in our elimination rounds. Ko going to go down to 18. Is going to want to have a removal spell at the ready for that, so it doesn't play the role of a Char, for example. If those creatures are able to deal 4 points of damage, their job has been done.
Yeah, they're very timing sensitive. If you have them early and they go uncontested, it's pretty big upside.
And this is a hero's downfall. So bye-bye Ash Zealot. We'll see what Wijaya's follow-up is going to be. And you see his hand, he's doing a little bit of counting already, and it's turn 3.
Yes. No, I mean, he has to sequence it. He has to think about sequencing it like this because he is playing against discard as well. So he has to prioritize getting certain cards out of his hand first.
Sacred Foundry going to come and play tap. Wijaya will pass it back. You see a Bile-Blight to draw here for Ko, and he looks like he may have a Desecration Demon. He does. So now the clock is on in a big way.
It's really valuable for Roy to have something like this right now. You see his hand is glutted with creature removal that's not likely to be very good here. He needs to get some pressure.
Magma Jet from Wijaya going to put Ko down to 16. Time to Scry here. Probably the weakest burn spell in the deck, but the one that kind of ties the room together.
Yeah, Scry is so valuable for a deck with really polarized draws like Red-White Burn. He needs to basically hit all of his land drops and then stop and draw action for the rest of the game. So Scry, very valuable.
You see Wijaya is going to consult his hand. Take a look at those 2 cards from the Magma Jet as well. You can see in his hand he's got 2 copies of Searing Blood. Has a War Leader's Helix. Also has a Mutavault there as well. Mutavault can play the role of Fog in this particular game if it's able to activate and then tap down the Desecration Demon. Not sure if we'll ever get to that point, but I'm sure Wijaya will try.
And it's not clear if Vidi wants to keep a 4th red source of mana or not, but Roy does have Blood Baron of Viscopa in his hand, and Vidi has 2 copies of Searing Blood. So Roy actually might go for his potential Haymaker in the matchup and get destroyed if Vidi has a 4th red mana.
And see Wijaya really giving this a lot of thought because, as you mentioned, he probably doesn't want to draw very many more lands in this game. I think a 5th one is the last one he can afford to draw.
Yeah, and you can see right now he's actually he's looking at Temple of Triumph, where this is actually ideal for this scenario. It gives him a 4th red source of mana, while also not just being a completely dead draw, as the Scry helps as well.
So Wijaya is going to keep both cards on top. He'll take a draw. It is the Temple of Triumph that you did mention. He's going to play Mutavault. He's going to pass a turn back. So this is signifying a War Leader's Helix to me. Ko, as you mentioned, does have Blood Baron. Not sure if he has the 5th land or not. You see he's got a lot of removal in his hand.
Yeah, this is the problem that Black-White Midrange has game 1, just a lot of inefficient tools.
This is a very efficient tool. Is Desecration Demon in for 6. Gonna put Wijaya down to 14.
But those War League's Helixes give Vidi a lot of breathing room.
Yeah, oddly enough, very good against Desecration Demon beatdown, just playing the role of basically Fog.
No, when I was messing around with various burn strategies myself, I went from 2 to 3 to eventually 4 War League's Helix because damage racing is such a valuable tool for this deck.
And there's War Leader's Helix. Wijaya going to go up to 18. Ko's going to go down to 12. Ko does not have a 5th land, so Wijaya draws his card. He's going to play Temple of Triumph. With any luck for Vidi, this will be the last land that he does play for the game because I don't think he wants to draw a 6th one.
No, he's got all the mana he needs to operate. 4 red sources of mana. He can also activate the Mutavault to itself to sacrifice a Desecration Demon. He's at his ceiling for mana needs.
Does leave a card on top, passes the turn back over to Ko. Doesn't look like Ko drew a land yet again, so he's just kind of stuck with Desecration Demon into the red zone. Vidi shrugs his shoulders, says, yeah, I'll take 6. I go to 12.
So much removal in Roy's hand.
Yep. Got multiple copies of Bile-Blight. This is a War Leader. He looks yet again. Wijaya going to go up to 16. Ko going to go down to 8. What's important here, not only is Vidi getting life, but he's messing up the damage race with Desecration Demon. It's a 3-turn clock still.
Yeah.
Wijaya draws his card. He left this card on top. Pass the turn back.
Yeah, he left Magma Jet on top again. Just really interested in trying to manipulate his draws.
Read the bones to draw from Roy.
Yeah, Roy's hand is is a disaster right now.
Yeah.
It is a lot of creature removal, multiple copies of Read the Bones.
And he says, how about 6 more? I think VD will oblige him. He says, I go to 10.
I mean, this Desecration Demon is plugging away. It's trying its little heart out here, but and you can see Roy doesn't even want to cast the pack rat because he knows that Searing Blood could happen.
Yeah. I mean, what would VD be holding? You know, is the question he can ask himself. He's not playing anything. What could he be holding? Wijaya, considering his options, says, all right, Magma Jet you. Put you down to 6. It's never a comfortable feeling just getting burned the entire game.
No, it is not, especially when you know how many bad draws you have, too.
He left them both on top. Okay.
Also, not a good feeling.
Yeah. Now he's firing up a Skull Crack. Going to put Roy down to 3. Wijaya going to untap. He's going to take a draw. He says Lightning Strike, and that is going to do it. Vidianto Wijaya does win game number 1 with Red-White Burn over Roy Ko playing Black-White mid-range. We're going to get to the sideboards here in a moment, but we're bringing it back to the booth because it is premium giveaway time. I've got the rules. Patrick's got the question. Very simply, get your Twitters ready. He's going to fire away a question. You're going to hashtag the answer to the question with the hashtag of SCG Premium. Also, make sure you're following SCG Live on Twitter. We will draw the winner at the conclusion of our quarterfinals round. So it's about accuracy, not speed. And again, your hashtag that you're looking for is SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live. Patrick Sullivan, I'm sure this will be burn-based.
It is.
Take it away.
So, Vidianto Wijaya playing a very creature-light build of this strategy. In his Game 1 deck, not talking about sideboard, but his main deck, he has 4 copies of Chandra's Phoenix, unquestionable in this sort of strategy. He has 4 copies of one other creature. Name that creature.
And if you can name that creature, again, hashtag SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live, so whoever wins will get the prize. Again, we'll be drawing the winner at the conclusion of our semifinal round. So we'll be drawing, from the group of people who do get it correct. So it's about accuracy, not speed. And if you want to cheat, feel free. As we're going to go back to the match here, I'm going to give you the burn sideboard because, etc. That's your thing. But I'll take a look at Roy Ko's side where you guys can see it at home there on the screen as well. 2 Lifebane Zombie, 2 Underworld Connections, 2 Doomblade, 2 Obsidian Ghost Council, 4 copies of Duress, and 3 copies of Revoke Existence. The obvious ones are going to come in Duress and Obsidian. The other cards are just super mediocre.
Yeah, Obsidian is very challenging for Red-White Burn to answer, much more challenging than Blood Baron of Viscopa. The 4 Duresses are, of course, excellent here as well, as attacking VD's hand is a very good strategy. On VD's side, 4 Fire Drinker Satyrs, 3 Vidianto First Blades, 2 copies of Blight Obedience, 2 Chain of the Rocks, 4 Satyr Fire Dancers. I think you're certainly going to see Fire Drinker Satyr come in, and I believe you may also see additional copies of Chain of the Rocks coming in as well.
Yeah, nothing too crazy here, though. It just seems it's just really straightforward, this matchup. Now, it's not going to play exactly like it did in Game 1 where Roy's hand is just glutted with removal, but I think it'll play close to that.
It's challenging, This was the same problem that VD's opponent encountered during the Swiss rounds when we had Black-White mid-range on camera. There's just too many inefficient cards in the deck. It's obviously easy to get hung up on cards like Thoughtseize and Read the Bones to deal damage, but even a card like Pack Rat, one of the more powerful cards in the deck, is uncastable on a lot of boards because of the threat of Searing Blood that really contorts the way that Roy has the sideboard. This was not an issue before Born of the Gods, obviously, as Searing Blood had yet to be printed, but it adds another layer of useless, inefficient, or risky cards for a deck like Black-White midrange to keep in.
You see both players shuffling up again. When we do have any results for you guys in our other 3 matches, we've got Mono Blue Devotion versus Esper Control in our 1 versus 8. We've got Green Red Monsters versus Jund Monsters in our 3 versus 6, and that'll be our backup match. And then our 2 versus 7, Ricky Sitter playing Blue Eye Control against Nathan Hale playing Jund Monsters. Any results on those, we'll let you guys know at home. As you mentioned, a pretty different topic than what we saw in Seattle.
Yeah, again, Seattle, no copies of Sphinx's Revelation, no copies of Palakranos. I would suspect that is the first and only time that has happened while both of those cards have been legal in Standard. There's been a pretty significant readjustment this weekend, and you're seeing a lot of control strategies succeed and a lot of very aggressive strategies succeed, like the one that VD is piloting right now.
Yeah, VD's kind of this lone standout, kind of weird deck that I wouldn't be surprised that no one wants to play against. It's just a little bit obscure. It's different than the version that won in Seattle. It's obviously got a very good matchup here in the quarterfinals, and he'll be playing the winner of the Mono Blue Devotion versus Esper Control matchup. Wouldn't be surprised if he's rooting for old Esper there.
Well, actually, My experience playing Burn is I am not a fan of playing against decks like Esper. It's really hard to beat counterspells. You're trying to assemble 20. You have to do it in a very specific time frame because you're worried about the threat of Sphinx's Revelation. And so playing against a deck that has some discard spells and some counter spells in Sphinx's Revelation is actually not something I'm really in the market for. VD does have a very good sideboard for that matchup potentially with Fire Drinker Crusader and Viashino First Blade, but, in my experience, it's not as good of a matchup as you would imagine.
Okay. Your thoughts on the Mono Blue Devotion matchup, just in case for the Red White Burn players at home?
Actually, even worse. So, VD's got his work cut out for him if he advances to the semifinals, regardless.
Fair enough. Well, as these players do finish shuffling up here, it's been a long day, but a fun one. 694 players here came out to Los Angeles. Who knows how many we'll have for our Legacy Open, but we've voted away down to 8. So we definitely want to thank everyone who came out here this weekend to play some standard Magic. And it was a diverse meta game. The place was so big, we had to get into the room.
Yeah, and I think tomorrow's going to be huge as well because Los Angeles has a great active Legacy community.
Quick update for you guys here. Brian Phelan with Jun Monsters up a game over Brian Zunter playing Green-Red Monsters. Jun Monsters obviously more geared towards beating this mirror-esque type match, looking to beat other monster decks. So not too surprising to see him up a game. Even though he did break serve, Brian was on the draw.
Yeah. In the Battle of Shivan Dragons, it's good to have terrors, is essentially what this comes down to.
That is totally correct.
Yeah.
So both players shuffling up here. Will be underway in game number 2 for a little bit. Again, what we saw in Seattle with the Legacy Open, we saw Bug Delver, Team America, whatever you want to call it, win again last weekend. That deck is really on a tear recently.
It has been putting up really impressive results, and there's a lot of room for customization in that deck.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you're playing Dark Confidant, if you're playing Tombstalker, Thoughtseize versus Hymn to Torak, we see different builds of Bug all the time.
Yeah. They all seem to be doing quite well, though. All the different variations is kind of you tailor it how you want to go about playing the deck. But at the end of the day, you're playing some of the most powerful decks in the format. Obviously, you've got Brainstorm, you've got Deathrite Shaman, Thoughtseize, True Name Nemesis, even though some versions choose to go without it, Hymn to Torak. You have just wonderful, wonderful Magic cards in your deck.
And in my opinion, I think it's the best Deathrite Shaman deck in the format as well, as you're definitely interested in leveraging a mana advantage with Wasteland, which complements your Dazes. You're also a aggressive deck, so the draining feature, or the damage feature rather, is very valuable. Compared to a deck like Esper Deathblade, where, the mana accelerate's helpful, but you're not really in the market to be dealing damage.
Quick update for you guys. Ricky Sitter, our 2 seed, up a game over Nathan Hale. Blue-White Control up a game over Jun Monsters. Blue-White, Esper, whatever you want to call it. Just a small splash of black in the sideboard.
Can't be too surprised by that matchup. A real uphill battle for Jun Monsters, game 1, especially on the draw.
Yeah. Definitely true. Ricky actually taking that one down pretty quick. He is a pretty quick player.
Yeah, Ricky's an efficient control player.
Both players taking a look at their opening hands. Royko will be on the play here. So, decisions. Again, Roy has to keep a very certain set of cards. It looks like both players are going to mulligan. Maybe video keep now.
Actually, in this matchup, I feel like Roy can afford to mulligan pretty aggressively because he has a couple cards that give him a real shot at winning the game, and then just a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
So a lot of his hands of lands and spells just need to go away because if it's, 3 lands, some removal spells, and a random creature, that's not going to get it done.
Yeah, I agree. I think, my statement of just like he's looking for a certain set of cards, as you mentioned, because there's so much rubbish in his deck. He's looking for, a certain set of cards that allows him to keep. Maybe he finds, in that opening hand, looked at 6 cards and 1 bad card. Like, you're going to keep that.
Right.
But, I feel like his hand is looking at maybe like 3 cards that are just like, ugh, these are terrible, and then 4, fine cards in the hand. So it's basically a mulligan to 4 in the matchup.
Yeah. And I think Roy really, I think the card that he needs is Duress. He's probably not going to struggle to handle VD's creatures with all the removal that's still in his deck, assuming VD even draws a creature, which is not a given. And the information that he gets from the Duress and starting to attack VD's critical mass of burn spells is a really important combination.
I think about this red-white burn deck, too. You know what? It's about darn time War Leaders Helix was good.
That card's, that's a card where when it got previewed or spoiled, people were like, this is not nearly as good as Lightning Helix. And there's a lot of room in between not as good as Lightning Helix and a powerful tournament level card.
Yeah.
Lightning Helix is way over the curve. It doesn't need to be that good to be good enough for Constructed. And you're seeing it in burn strategies and control strategies do a lot of good work.
And can you imagine if Lightning Helix was legal now? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be ridiculous. VD, along with Roy, looking at their cards. All right, they're happy with 6. Here's a Godless Shrine.
and Fire Drinker Satyr off the top for
We
Vidi.
saw Vidi do this last time when he played against Black-White. He did board in creatures, but assuming that Roy will probably board out a lot of his removal because it's such junk against him.
You also had to imagine that Fire Drinker Satyr is just better than something like Shock, for example.
Into the red zone we go, both creatures. And this is an ultimate price, but 2 damage will come across from the Satyr. The Royal draw a card to revoke existence. Targets?
Chain of the Rocks.
Okay.
Not a lot.
Galish going to come into play on tap. Vidi probably with a mental fist pump there. Let's see what this is. Life Bane? Yep. So let's get some info. There's the grip. You can see a Boros Guildgate, a Mutavault, a War Leader's Helix,
And a Chandra's Phoenix.
Phoenix. It's a good draw from Vidi.
Yeah, an oddly very creature-heavy hand.
Yeah. This turn's really interesting to me, too, because we saw this actually, man, I just keep drawing back from the last match we saw Vidi play when he's playing for top 8. You know, I can just fire away a ton of questions for you here, just like, do you attack with Satyr this go-around?
Well, I'm really curious because Vidi talked to me after the match and asked me if I felt that he made any mistakes. And I brought up this exact play of running his Fire Drinker Satyr into a Lifebane Zombie. So now I'm really curious.
Yeah, and he's not going to attack this go-around. So this is really, really interesting. Where we saw a trade happen before, but now this go-around, he doesn't want to trade. But, you know, maybe with the thought process of, I want to be able to fog a Desecration Demon or what have you.
Also, if he trades here, the bigger issue is now Searing Blood is no longer a draw because Roy will have no targets.
Sure.
So he probably gets more upside just by waiting with the Fire Drinker Satyr, especially when you factor in Searing Blood.
And now Roy's Lifebane Zombie is basically playing the role of defender at this point. Can't afford to attack because then he's trading damage. You know, he's racing back and forth. Obviously, the racing is going to be in favor of the burn deck.
Yep. And this forces Roy to leave up his mana in ways that he doesn't want to. You know, he wants to leave his Mutavault back to block, potentially. He may want to leave up mana for removal. So just the threat of these creatures attacking him is causing Roy to really contort his play.
See, Roy has 2 copies of Revoke Resistance in his hands, basically 2 virtual mulligans at this point. Drew a Godless Shrine for the turn. He had something to do with this mana that he has. He's going to play this on tap. This might be the Baron. And it is. So he's hoping that this is good enough.
It may be.
Yeah, Vidi's hand's not great right now against Blood Baron.
I mean, he can stack multiple spells on it or run a creature in and use a removal spell, but Roy getting to gain 4 life is a critical swing for him here.
Yeah. Roy's sitting at 10. Vidi's sitting at 17 as Lifebane Zombie did come across. But Vidi is really slowed down now.
Yeah, he has a Lightning Strike in his hand that he can cast here. The issue is, if he doesn't burn him out, it's a big issue. And, you know, using the card here is a big issue in this way. Also, if he draws Searing Blood, then he could use Lightning Strike in tandem to take down Blood Baron.
There's Boros Guildgate. In for 2 we go. Roy's going to go down to 5.
He must have drawn a Skullcrack here if he didn't send the Fire Drinker Satyr in.
If he drew a Skullcrack, he is a very skilled magician.
Because he simply could have attacked with Fire Drinker Satyr and threatened to pump and trade with the
That's true.
with the Blood Baron. So if he wasn't willing to make that play, he almost certainly has Skullcrack.
I always forget that Fire Drinker Satyr can just pump.
Oh, it's really good.
Yeah.
That card's really good.
It serves a very certain role, but it's very good at that role.
Look at him, just ready to deal.
Where is the party?
Where's the party at? I am ready to go.
Yeah, he sure is. Here we go into the red zone. Yeah, he drew Skullcrack.
Yep.
What a good draw.
That's a really good one.
I think his last card's War Leader's Helix too.
Yeah, because why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, that's true.
While we're here.
Yeah, when you're running good, as they say. I think that's a pack rat past the turn back. He's going to quickly untap. He's going to draw. And here's an attack here. Yeah, he's got lethal just in the air, so that's going to do it. Vidianto Wijaya going to win this match over Roy Cohn. What is a very difficult matchup for Black-White mid-range. Red-White Burn moving on to the semifinals.
Yeah, I mean, Roy did what he could there. And I actually think in game 1, he showed a lot of understanding of the matchup by refusing to cast his pack rats and such in the face of what was almost certainly Searing Blood. But there's just not much for him to do here. He has just way too many bad cards. His real only hope of winning is a bunch of duresses opening up a path for Desecration Demon or for Blood Baron, and that's just asking for a lot.
Congratulations to Vidianto Wijaya. It's not his first time in the elimination rounds, coming back tomorrow, so we're going to see some more Red-White Burn tomorrow morning. Looks like we're going to try to head over to our backup match for you guys between Brian Phelan and Brian Zunter. We'll bring it back here to the booth first. We can definitely